today, but I don't think it's gonna rain anyways. And what did I read today? How about this one? These combinations of words isn't usually good. RCMP and drones in Canada. You know what happens, huh? But how about this one? This one says, RCMP aims to dramatically expand reach into remote areas via drones. As you know, there was that story where the RCMP crashed their drones into a helicopter, and this one says, the RCMP is looking to expand the growing use of drones by Canadian police, issuing a tender for long-range aircraft that could reach far-flung crime scenes and other incidents well before officers arrive. The force, like others in Canada, is currently using off-the-shelf drones in more contained urban areas. A recently posted tender document asked vendors instead to supply machines capable of traveling at least 400 kilometers in 5 hours on a single battery charge, adding the Mounties many detachments in remote parts of the country. That's a long flight they're expecting, isn't it? 5 hours on a single battery at 400 kilometers? The plan would place the RCMP among the first forces in North America to employ drones as first responders, making it to destinations before officers and flying well outside the line of sight of the operator, says a surveillance expert. The devices, officially called remote piloted aircraft systems, would have to fly as fast as 100 kilometers an hour and transmit video, thermal imaging, and other data back to a base station in real time, says the RCMP tender document. Being responsible for the majority of Canada's landmass, the force has detachments that cover tens of thousands of square kilometers of sparsely populated areas, says spokesperson Sergeant Kim Chamberlain by email. Drones that travel at high speed over long distances would help increase police and public safety by arriving first on scene, retrieving as much information as possible and relaying it to emergency service personnel on their way, said the request for proposals. As this goes on, it just sounds like they're expecting some pretty high-tech stuff, because it says the drone should be able to automatically detect motion from vehicles and people at least a kilometer away, then send an alert back to the base station, says the tender document. The document mentions some possible real-world applications. It says drones could help police locate suspects fleeing from an armed robbery in a remote location or avoid the dangers of high-speed chase by following a suspect vehicle until it comes to a stop. The RFP underscores how Canadian law enforcement has increasingly, but with little fanfare, turned to the flying machines as a unique policing tool, while also sparking concerns among civil rights advocates about potential invasion of privacy. Yeah, that's been a topic here anyways. And for my thought anyways, is in that story where they crashed their drones into helicopters and so forth. No one really has anything to say about it, yet these are the same people fear-mongering a toy drone, or people flying it for fun, for example, like small ones. And there's that thought too, where the police could use it in this way, for example, just taking videos and so forth, but eventually, like the concern it says here, it is also warned that the force's policy does not specifically outlaw arming drones or using them with facial recognition software to identify people spied from above. Privacy advocates have expressed particular concern about surveillance by the devices as opposed to having them respond to live incidents. It does say too though, drone data used as evidence in criminal cases is kept for at least 2 years until it no longer has business value, at which point it's destroyed or anonymized and kept for research or statistical purposes, the force says. Other information gathered by drones is held for a predetermined period of time before being disposed of, it says. And how much would they exactly spend on this? It says the new RCMP tender calls for 2 phases, a 6-month proof of feasibility stage with funding of up to $300,000 per contract, followed by a second phase of a year offering contracts of as much as $1 million each. There's probably going to be tons of people jumping on that, but again, they're going full steam ahead, it seems like here anyways, in terms of officials using drones. Well, people actually push back, because here, unfortunately, it's just been dominated by commercial, for example, lobbyists, fake gurus, for example, taking advantage of people just for these courses and all that. Well, how about this one? It's kind of interesting. I read this before where there are apparently farmers in various parts of the world that are just saying, okay, who cares about these regulations? We're just using drones anyways. Like here it says, Wild West Drone Fest. Farmers break the law to spray fields with drones. Enforcers turn a blind eye. So some people actually argue that in terms of that's the only way to get, I guess, reasonable change is when so many people are uncompliant. It says Canadian farmers are quietly rebelling against federal rules that prohibit spraying agriculture's most important crop chemicals with drones, according to industry insiders. under the radar, some fed-up Ontario farmers are opting to spray with drones anyways. For the better part of a decade, American farmers have been using drones to spray popular herbicides and pesticides. They're allowed as long as those chemicals are already approved for use with conventional aviation crop dusting. Canadian regulators have resisted this blank approach, insisting instead on a separate drone certification for each product. It's a slow go, bureaucratic process that appears to be years away from allowing drones to apply the pesticides common in farming. That includes the crucial fungicides sprayed on Ontario corn, often by helicopter. That actually makes absolutely no sense. You can fly like a humongous helicopter, for example, to do this, but then a smaller drone that can do the job just as good or fast? Nope, all this bureaucracy. It says Marcus Weber, an Edmonton, Alberta-based vendor of the biggest agricultural drones from manufacturer DJI, said that Health Canada's Pest Management Regulatory Agency is holding up approvals while proving unable to enforce its rules, saying, quote, "This is a year full of drama," Weber said. "The farmers are way out ahead of the regulators, the cat's under the bag." Weber, who emphasized that he doesn't condone breaking the law, estimated that hundreds of people in Western Canada are having crops drone sprayed with products not currently approved for use with drones. The Ontario number would be in the tens, he suggested, with most being farmers using their own drones. I actually wonder that about the vendors too, because I know there's cases, for example, where people can say, hey, I'm just selling the hardware, but they know for a fact people are using it illegally and all that. Can they be held responsible in any way? But it's kind of an interesting example, again, on how people are just saying, okay, forget it, I'm going to use it anyways, regardless of the law. And there were some people willing to speak about it, but not willing to reveal their identities, of course. It says one operator, a southwestern Ontario farmer, who agreed to speak with Farmers Forum on condition of anonymity, has been spraying crops with a large drone that he's owned for the last 2 years. Most of his work has involved spraying fungicide on his own cornfields and on those of paying customers. He charges $16 per acre and covers about 35 acres per hour. This year, in the second season of operation, he sprayed 6,000 acres and served 15 customers. And it goes on where people are just saying how it's more efficient and less expensive, I suppose, to use drones instead. But it makes you wonder, is this the way it's going to have to be for a lot of people who use it for these purposes, because the regulations, they just don't make sense for a lot of people? It makes you wonder what would have happened here anyways if all those fake gurus and lobbyists didn't exist in that regards and people actually fought back saying, hey, this doesn't make any sense. Unfortunately, it's just been dominated by people just wanting to make money out of it. I'm sure afterwards you'll say, okay, I'm on your side, but even I've shown in the past so many phonies and fake gurus. But yeah, it's just kind of interesting to see industry specifically saying, okay, who cares, I'm doing this anyways. All right, see you guys later.